easy thing, but there is something about when you are driving that stick shift, the system is going to tell you when it is time to move. And sometimes, like Sister Sharita said, the ride will get a little uncomfortable before it gets better. And so we've got to know, like, this, when you feel that movement, like with the car, it is that car telling you to be aware of its movement. Like, it makes you feel every change, and you don't just like get to press the gas and zone out like we do with our automatic cars. Like, you have to shift every time that engine tells you that the ride is getting rough. And that is sort of how we are looking at this lesson today, as we're going to talk about our boy Peter. His life with Jesus, in my mind, is a lot like a stick shift. It doesn't always move smoothly from point A to point B. There are times that he's doing really great. There's times when he stalls out. There's times when he speeds up and he moves too fast. There are times when he slows down and he gets scared. But I think over time, like, Jesus really teaches him how to move differently. So that's kind of the approach that we're going to look at today. We're going to kind of look at shifts even in our own spaces and shifts in our own lives. Hello to those of you who are joining us on the Zoom, and hello to those of you on Facebook. Again, sounds like you did not have sound, and I hope you do this time. If not, please note that if you're on the email distribution, you did receive the Zoom link, and you are welcome to join us on the Zoom side. So we're talking about shifts in our lesson this week. Our lesson is entitled Call and Growth. Call and growth. Again, if you saw the entire lesson, that's not what we're here to do today, to go through the entire lesson, but we're going to use it as a discussion space. So let's do a little bit of an icebreaker, if you will, because I think there are some shifts in life that we plan for, and there are some that just happen. So here's my question for you. And on Zoom, you can answer. You can come off mute. If you're in YouTube, you can just answer in the comments. What is an example of a shift in your life that you did not plan for, but now you're grateful for it? An example of any shift in your life that you didn't plan for it, but now you're grateful.
For me, moving to Mississippi. I was born and bred in Oakland, California, and my husband, he retired, and he wanted to move back to Mississippi. And unbeknownst to me, I never lived any other place other than California. So California to Mississippi is a totally different thing. But it's the best move we could have ever did. I absolutely love Mississippi. And if the Lord says the same, I will not go back and move back to California.
I love that. All right. Sister Sharita says, moving to Mississippi. Margot Moore on YouTube says, a job change. I feel that one. Anybody else? A shift that you didn't plan for, but now you're grateful for it.
I have go ahead, Cheryl. Go ahead, Cheryl. Okay.
All right. Well, in 2021, I retired from a business manager position with one agency in state government. And I accepted another position where the only job was answering the phone maybe every couple of weeks. And so I was loving it. But since then, I've been promoted 3 times and have not applied for any of these promotions. These are promotions that people sought after me. As a matter of fact, I was promoted twice while I was on vacation last year. And so I once again have a real job. But it has been a good experience because of, first of all, because of the money. And then secondly, because of everything I've been able to learn.
I love that. I love that. Anybody else? I'll take one more on Zoom.
My shift has been, I have a 90-year-old mom, Cheryl's auntie, and the shift has been from being a daughter to an elder taking care of her. A huge shift. I'm the only girl with 3 brothers. She's currently in a senior facility, skilled nursing. Huge shift. But I'm blessed and grateful that she is still alive and that she is in a safe place, and that we as her children are in a position to provide her with the care that we are capable of doing on an ongoing basis.
I love that. I don't see any others in the chat on YouTube. And it's interesting because I can identify with a lot of y'all, like coming to Texas. And I've been here 25 years now. I can't believe that. But this was not on my, as the young people say, this was not on my bingo card. And so and even like I went to a birthday last Sunday, and it was a birthday for my previous manager at Coca-Cola. And it was such a lovely event. But one of the nicest things was like seeing women that I worked with 20 years ago. That sounds crazy. I'm an auntie at this point, right? But women that I worked with 20 years ago, and now to see them and to like realize, like I was sitting in the presence of such amazing women even then, but to know that like that shift that happened put me in the place of beautiful people, beautiful experiences. But I will tell you, like, I never saw myself leaving Kansas City. And to that end, like, even we were talking about this, like being inside the system, how it seemed like every, I don't know, 5 to 7 years, maybe that's even too much, 3 to 6 years, there were always these reorgs and that kind of thing. And so when I actually got laid off twice. But each time, to your point, like with job changes, number one, it was a shift that brought me here because they reorged the company. Inside the company, I went through several reorgs and I got laid off twice, even after being here. But I think every one of those shifts, even though I didn't plan it, Texas has been good to me. I'm like Sister Sharita, Texas has been amazingly good to me. And when I look at, being kind of pushed out sometimes, like even with layoffs, they are not fun to go through. I didn't, as a single female, that was kind of scary, like what's going to happen next. But it's also a thing that put me in a place of a different kind of trust, if you will. And it made me grow up a whole lot too. So I don't know why I took my camera off. I just been talking. But yeah, I've had to grow up a lot in that as well. So I agree that, those shifts will move us into different places, but we can always see the gratitude in it as God grows us up. So I'll give you one more question. If you didn't answer, you can answer this one. Fill in the blank. Because sometimes we don't see our own growth until we pause and take a look back at where we've come from, who we are, what we've overcome. So sort of fill in this blank for me. Fill in the blanks. Before I was blank, now I am blank. Before I was blank, now I am blank. So I'll give you my example. Before I was a person who rushed everything because I was trying to get so much in. Now I slow down a little bit more. Now I'm trying to take in things around me. Now I'm trying to be more present with people. So give me your before and after. Any befores and afters? And while you're doing that, I see Sister Ruby Nell, who is also in Mississippi, had to relocate to St. Louis, Missouri for 2 years. Oh, wow. Yeah. To get retirement, a great experience for a Mississippi girl. She's retired now as well. I have an aunt that had to do that. She came here to Garland, Texas to finish out her retirement and move back to Kansas City. Any before and afters? And thank you all for those who have joined on Zoom. Welcome. We welcome you. No before and afters? Before you were this and now you're this?
Hi, Waynell. I'm like Sister Ruby. Before I worked and now I'm retired.
I love it. Mother McInnes.
Yes.
Hey.
Before, good to see you.
You too.
And I'm not sure if I'm even supposed to be on, but somebody sent me the information.
Of course you are. You're always welcome to the party. You know that. Yes, ma'am.
Before, I was hesitant about using technology. My pastor pushed me into it just before COVID. Sunday school, we're going virtual. You got to do it. And I was familiar with Zoom, but just didn't know that much about it. But he just pushed me into it. And I am so thankful that he did, because I'm now still using it and trying to get even better using it and expanding the growth of my Sunday school class. But meeting people like you, Rodney Jones, all those others, and just getting to know other individuals. And I am 84 years of age. So.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Because I had just said, no, that's not for me. But I do want to continue to grow spiritually. So I've got to learn how to use technology. so that I
Oh,
can do it spiritually.
you
Yes,
are doing a great job. No, thank you for inspiring us. That's awesome. 84 and a technology whiz. And spoiler alert, there are going to be some technology things coming for TSSG this year. So, by the way, if y'all don't know, boot camp is this week. I hope to see you Tuesday from 4 to 6. It's a free event, and there will be some nuggets that you're able to pick up there. Let's see here. Elder Sal says, before I was nervous about what people thought, but now I step out on faith. Sister Angela says, before I was afraid to speak in front of people, now I am the leader of the prayer team. Wow. Sister Bridget says, before I was a first grade teacher, now I'm an assistant principal, and I see a lot. That is incredible. That is incredible. And I think that the journey that God takes us on, I think a lot of times we don't leave space for that and the grace that it takes to kind of go through that journey. So again, I don't want today just to feel like another walkthrough of this particular lesson. I'm excited to talk about what shifts look like in this story. And again, as we look at Peter, he went through a ton of shifts. Now, I know that most of you have already read this lesson. This is not how I was going to use the time, but for the benefit of anybody who maybe didn't read the lesson, I will quickly read these passages, and we're going to keep this conversational form. Matthew chapter 4, verses 18 through 20. And I think I'm using a Christian Standard Version. And if somebody wants to get the Matthew chapter 16, verses 16 through 18 passage, you can be a reader for me. Hope you brought your Bibles. Somebody can get John chapter 21, verses 15 through 18. Somebody can get Peter, 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 14 and 15. And then I will read 18 to finish us out. So I'll start with the first one. I have Matthew 4, 18 through 20. As he walked along the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. Follow me, he told them, and I will make you fish for people. Immediately they left their nets and followed him. Who's got 16 through 18?
And I'm reading from the New International Version, 16 through 18. Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus replied, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it."
Thank you. Who's got John chapter 21, verses 15 through 18?
I have it.
All right.
When they finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you truly love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The third time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him a third time. "Do you love me?" he said. "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep. I tell the truth. When you were younger, you dressed yourself and went through you wanted. And went where you wanted. But when you were old, you would stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go."
Thank you. Who's got 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 14 and 15?
I'll take it, NIV version. "So then, dear friends, since you are looking forward to this, make every effort to be found spotless, blameless, and at peace with him. Bear in mind that our Lord's patience means salvation, just as our dear brother Paul also wrote you with the wisdom that God gave him."
And verse 18 reads, "But grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. To him be glory both now and forever. Amen." So that's our scripture reading for this week. When I did the video this week, I opened with two words that can absolutely change your life. And y'all, once the editor sent it back to me, I think on the international, it was edited for me. They took out my first two words. My first two words were, "I'm pregnant." And they edited that out, and it was all for shock value, right? But it is amazing how 2 words can absolutely change your life. And that is what we are looking at as we kind of talk about shifts and looking at it through the life of Peter. As we go through this, it's not even just like the call that he had, but it is literally how God develops him the entire way. So there are, I think I have 5 or 6 different shifts. Maybe that's what I have. I will just go with my notes here. As we look at this particular story, the first thing that I noticed is the shift. This is shift number 1. And if you're on YouTube, you can drop this in the comments. We're looking at shifts in the life of Peter, and we're going to talk about them in the scope of our own. The first shift that we see in this text is a shift from routine to relationship. Routine to relationship. You can put that in the chat. So when we first meet Peter, when we're in our Matthew text, Matthew does not introduce him in prayer. He does not introduce him in church. He introduces him in practice. We meet him in his everyday life. What is Peter doing in his everyday life? And anybody can tell me, we just read it. What is he doing?
Fishing.
He's just fishing. This is the family business. You see, he and his brother, they are fishermen. And there's a verb in the text that tells us they are casting their nets, right? This is what they do day after day. So we're seeing, Peter in this space of repetition. In our everyday lives, we call repetition our habit, right? He's just a man out here he's trying to pay the bills. This is his livelihood. This is his identity, right? And I think it's important to notice it's not his hobby. Right? Jesus is not calling him away from a thing that's just convenient. He is literally, this is how this man lives. And here's Jesus who steps onto the scene and uses those 2 words that absolutely change his life. And those words are follow me. Follow me. And maybe you can think about things that God has said to you or required of you in your life while you were doing something regular inside of your regular life. And not only does he say, follow me, but whenever you see I will in a text or I shall, I hope that you always underline the wills and the shall, because when you see that, that's not Jesus saying, hey, follow me and we'll see how this works out. No, will is a promise. I'm going to do this for you. I will make you a fisher of men. Now that has to sound strange, right? Because what does that mean? What is a fisher of men, Jesus? Right? And sometimes I think God calls us to things and it does not make sense, right? And we don't have all the answers. And sometimes the way God wants us to do a thing, we have our brows kind of furrowed about it. But Jesus steps into that moment and requires something of him. And one thing I noticed right here in this text is that Jesus does not start by addressing Peter's character, right? He doesn't. And a lot of times people get called into spaces because of what we think about them, but he doesn't talk anything about his character. He's not examining what Peter believes. He's not outlining Peter's doctrine. It literally, this relational command begins with these 2 words, which is follow me. In the Greek, the word means to come after me, to accompany me, to move beyond the path that you are in. So again, it's not a word that you're going to learn sitting in a classroom. We say it this way sometimes. There are some lessons that are taught, right? Things that you learn at homes. I learned to cook. I'm standing next to mama in the kitchen, and now my mama don't like too many people in her kitchen. Everybody can't learn from my mama in the kitchen, right? My mama from Arkansas. So what she's going to show, she might show me the tips and tricks, but she don't want you in the kitchen watching the tips and tricks. So some lessons are taught. Some lessons are caught, like when we're just in environments and we learn how people are moving. And then there are some lessons that are bought. Those are the hard lessons. And I think that walking with Jesus kind of gave Peter all those experiences. So Matthew is the one that tells us that Peter he doesn't push back. Like it says, and they, both of them, straightway, they left their nets. You should circle the word left if you didn't already do so, because left means, what does left mean to you in that text? What do you think about when you think about leaving something? Anybody can share. What do you think about when you think leaving something?
Put down.
Yeah, it's putting down. What else?
You're not taking it with you.
You're not taking it with you. And what else I've already told you about this? These nets, they represent something to him, right? So sometimes that walking away means leaving something that is important to you. In this case, they are leaving something that has sustained them, and they're doing it to attach themselves to a person. So this first shift that we see in Peter's life is not a moral shift. We don't see him being made a better person. We don't see his character being changed. We already know Peter got a journey ahead, right? He's going to do a whole lot of things. Peter still has a mouth. Peter still got a temper. Peter still got all the things. But in this moment, it is not about morals. It's not even about theology. That's why I said we don't even know what Peter believes. He doesn't even know that this is Jesus the Christ. There's nothing that he believes about this man. Right now, he simply follows Jesus out of relationship. The first thing he does is move into relationship with Jesus. So he's moving from managing nets now to moving with Jesus. He's now going to build this life like by following the voice of this man that he has like just met. So, this is not, again, this is not a maturing thing. This is an obedience thing, right? And with this lesson, I thought a lot about what it means to become available. We think about, we oftentimes evaluate our availability on if we're able to be available. But when I looked at this with Peter, like I thought about what does it look like in our lives for us to create space in becoming available? Anybody got a thought about becoming available?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've got to sacrifice something. And he sacrificed his income.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Becoming available
and
does require
sacrifice
sacrifice.
his family,
Mm-hmm.
of just putting down and following him. And that could be very uncomfortable at times, And so now he did that. And so it shows that he had great faith.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I'll ask you this question, and YouTube, I'm watching your answers as well. And if you are someone who's on the email distribution, the link to join the Zoom is in your email. What routines in your life? We looked at Peter. So what routines in your life has Jesus stepped into rather than waiting for you to leave them? Mm-hmm. What routine, and anybody can answer that. That's a question for the group. What routine has Jesus stepped in your life rather than waiting for you to leave? And I don't want to take all the time, but I'll definitely go first. I go back to when I left. So when I left Coca-Cola, I went to work for Kraft. At the time that I was going to, I was debating the whole law school thing, right? I didn't know, I had applied. I was accepted into 3 or 4 law schools. I'd been for all the campus visits. But in my mind, I go back to, I abuse scripture. When the water is troubled, I have no man to throw me in. I made a TikTok about it this week. But that is to say, right, I'm a single female, right? So I'm navigating things on my own. And I was like, this is a great opportunity. I know it's the space that you're calling me to, but God, I can't just walk away from my income. I can't just, honestly, I had a company car. I had all the things, right? And I was like, to walk away from this feels like a lot, yet I know that's where I'm supposed to be. And so, school started in August. In March, they announced the 2 companies had merged, Kraft and Heinz. And we started to hear things like, we don't know what's going to happen. Just wait. We're working on what the 2 companies will look like in the new organization. I'll speed this up. Come July, last week in July, my manager calls this all team call. And he says, listen, hey, I don't know what's getting ready to happen. He says, and this is a man who had been with the company at this point for 32 years. And I kind of was taking cues from my manager on how to feel. Like if he wasn't panicking, I wasn't panicking. But for him to pull us together that day and to say, I can't tell you what to do. He said, but everybody ought to have a plan B. And right now, if I were to write another book, the book will be entitled Inside a Plan B, because my life right now is truly inside of Plan B. And I say that because at the end of July, I still was not committed. I was accepted, but I wasn't like moving with purpose toward going to school. Promise you, 10 days before the first day of school, I got the call that let me know that in this market in Dallas, there were 4 of us between the 2 companies. And I was not chosen for a role in the new organization. They kept somebody from the old company and they basically demoted another manager for her to ride out retirement in the role that I had. And that was one of those times where like, I felt like God stepped in and it didn't wait for me to leave. It never waited for me to be okay. Never waited for me to say, okay, I got all these things figured out. Nope. I truly felt like my whole life, my routine was interrupted in that way. And that was what was required of me. So that's my story. Like, that's how I got there. And that's what happened. So anybody else have any like routine? And it doesn't have to be anything that big or serious, but a regular routine, something that you do every single day that Jesus has stepped in rather than waiting on you to leave it. Anybody? You can think on it. Shift number 2 that we see in this text. Shift number 2. And when we think about the shifts of Peter, again, this setting is not just about telling Peter's story, but like digging in and what do we learn about Peter as disciples of ourselves? Like, we're being discipled every day. What does the shift number 2 that I see, and you can put this in the chat, YouTube. Peter moves from follower to confessor. From follower to confessor. We see that in Matthew 16 through 18, right? So by the time we get to Matthew 16, Peter's been walking with Jesus now long enough that he's been able to see his power. He's been able to see conflict. He's seen compassion. He's seen resistance. And now Jesus puts this question in front of him, right? Because now he's pressing the relationship into the open. It's a lot of folks who will hang out with you, a lot of folks who may follow, but it's really interesting when you find out, what do people really think about you, right? And so Jesus presses that question with Peter. He's asking that, like, who do you say I am? Like, who am I to you? What does this mean? And Peter's answer to him is, oh, you're the Christ, you're the Son of the living God. And, again, this is about Peter's confession, right? And it's like Peter naming who Jesus is, not just where he is, not just what he's doing, right? And so I would ask you that today, like, who is Jesus to you? Not what he does, right? Because a lot of people get into faith and spaces where they take advantage of what, I want him to do this. No, but who is Jesus to you? And you can drop that in either chat. I'm watching. Who is Jesus to you? And anybody can come off mute. Who do you say he is? If anybody were to ask you, or you got a chance to testify, who is Jesus to you?
He's my comforter.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
He's comforter. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Who is Jesus to you?
My strength.
Comforter, strength.
He's my personal friend. And I tell people all the time at my church that I am his favorite. And because you all know me, that's how come you all are blessed, because I am his favorite.
Y'all, we out here, we blessed. We know Sister Sharita, y'all, we are blessed, and she is his favorite. I love this.
That's it. That's it.
Let's see. We've got Cornell Grinstead who says he's my rock. I love that. Oh, I see healer, my father, healer, everything, Sister Doris Ward. I see Sister Kristen Fuller. So Jesus is all these things. And I think it's important that we sit with that question sometime. Like, who is he? What is he to you, right? And so when Jesus responds to Peter, his thing is, hey, flesh and blood didn't reveal that to you. Nobody told you that. But my Father in heaven revealed that to you. So, what Jesus is saying is that the insight that he now has into who Jesus is not simply built on intellect. It's not intelligentsia. It is truly revelation. And I'll tell you this, I think revelation happens through relationship. I believe that even in the natural, we can say we know each other, but I don't. That's why I guess I'm on single girl advice today. Baby, we're not out here falling in love in the first 30 days over here in holiness, because I got to see you through some seasons, right? And I seriously believe that relationship is built, or revelation is built through relationship. And so when I think about how Peter has walked with Jesus at this point, that has been revealed to him. I see Sister Grady says he is the great I am for everything that I need. Absolutely. Miss Victory, hey, in Mississippi says he is my everything. I see that too from Sister Paula Norman. He's my everything, my anything at all times, right? And so Jesus responds to Peter. You are Peter, and upon this rock, I will build my church. So he is talking about his identity. He's talking about a future. And note that he is saying this about a brother who is still, for the most part, unstable, right? So Jesus declares this about Peter before he's consistent, before he's disciplined, before he's even dependable, because we already know that Peter is going to fail, right? But Jesus affirms that in him. So I want you to think about, whether you feel it today or not, what has God said about you? What has God spoken over you? What is that thing that you know that God, whether you feel it today, whether you are as consistent as you need to be or not, whether you are as always disciplined as you need to be or not. I think this season, this January season, a lot of us have been in our times of consecration. I've been participating with the Seek Journey with the Alfred Street Baptist Church in Alexandria, Virginia. And I love Seek because it's not just, oh, we're not going to eat a bunch of food, but it has literally made us focus on food. It's made us focus on faith, and it's made us focus on our focus, literally what we do with, food, finances, and focus. Food, finances, and focus. So yeah, food, some things that we're not going to eat, but finances, we don't always think about how we're talking about discipline, right? One week of the consecration added to us, no Uber Eats and no DoorDash, right? Because sometimes we don't think about that level of discipline inside of us. One area of the consecration was even getting a copy of our credit reports and looking at our credit scores, right? Because that is a level of discipline, because I believe that there are things that God has said about me, even concerning finances. And I don't always feel as disciplined as I should be. How do you know you're not disciplined, Waynell? Because you scroll TikTok at night and you buy things, right? So, that's what I say. It doesn't change what he has said about me, but even before we feel consistent or before we feel totally disciplined or even sometimes dependable, like, I notice how Jesus affirms Peter, and I think he affirms us in this space today. So I think that shows us the shift that Peter now is moving from walking with Jesus to being able to witness about him. So when I ask y'all those things, like, who is Jesus to you? I think that's what makes us stronger witnesses about Jesus. Like, it is time for us as believers to move from simple association to articulation. And when I say that, people don't just need to know that we go to church. That's great, right? And they may know that you serve in church. That's great. But do you talk about Jesus? Someone said to me last night, I was talking about a young pastor here whose church is growing so organically and so beautifully. And when I see his congregation, it is kind of this really eclectic mix of people. But the person says to me, that pastor witnesses. That pastor will be in Walmart and just start talking about who Jesus is, just talking to people that he meets along the way. So I absolutely love that. So here's a question for you, and somebody could answer if you want, or you can take it as a personal reflection. But where do you struggle more? Do you struggle more believing what Jesus says about you or living like it's true? And if anybody wants to answer, you can. Where do you struggle more? Do you struggle more believing what Jesus said about you or living like it is true? All right. Dr. Bonnie Perry Adams, hello. Oh, thank you. Making a mental note to do better with your finances. Thank you for not leaving me out here by myself. Yes, Seek has been incredible. You're one of the 40,000 people, BJ Phillips. Absolutely. It has been incredible. And if you want to know more, either one of us could tell you more about it. All right. Anybody want to speak to that? This idea of believing what Jesus says about, and maybe don't even have to make it personal. You can just kind of comment on that if you have a thought about how we as people sometimes struggle with believing what Jesus said versus living like it's true. Any thoughts on that?
I would say living like it's true, simply because I believe what he says, but I think there's a discipline issue that comes into it sometimes, as far as living with like it's true, because I have some kind of pretty ingrained habits that kind of interrupt sometimes.
Yep. Our habits can interrupt. That's good.
I agree with Cheryl, the part of the living. That's why I always say that my relationship with God is day to day. It's walking day by day, trying to further deepen my relationship with him.
Oh, I love that so much. And we see that metaphor a lot, right? Especially when Paul writes this idea of walking. And like, I am in a space now where I talk to people about, like, we shouldn't be looking for ways just to skirt by and do as little as possible. Like what is the minimum that God is requiring? No, every single day, like, I'm treating every day as a day. I want to please God in this day. And because it is a walk, right? And if you think about when we were learning to walk, when you fall, what you do, get back up. and mama puts her hand out and say, okay, you can do this. Daddy walks behind you or make sure that, like, and I feel that way as a disciple. Like, just, I may not always get it right. You are so true. But there's also a space of grace that not only do I want to extend to myself, right? Because I feel like we all love grace when we want to, tell our story. But even as I'm learning to walk alongside other people, it's this reality that they're walking too, right? I even think about that with the disciples with Jesus. We're all out here walking. We're all out here trying to learn. And so there is like a grace that I want to be guilty of as others are trying to figure it out, and not even evaluating anybody else's walk inside of how I would have done it and how they taught me and what I did. No, we're all out here on a walk. That's the best way I can say it. And so there's a grace that I want to extend to myself and a grace that I want to make sure that I am extending to others. I see someone, this Sister Bridget said, it's the living like it's true is a struggle for me. Thank you for your honesty on that, Sister Bridget. And I can get that as well. Again, that is it's an awareness. I think there's an accountability to what God calls us to. And then there is the space of growth that I don't know that we always make space for as well. Like we are all like the last of the text tells us, but grow in grace, right? This is a growth journey. And so my niece and I later today are going to work on our vision boards. I was actually going to wait until February to do vision board because what I didn't want to do this year, in fact, last year's vision board is still right there. What I didn't want to do this year was start this year with everything I want to do. I have used this time of consecration, this time in Seek. I'm using it because I want to hear, like, God, what are you requiring of me? Where do you want Waynell to grow this year? What does that look like? My brother's church is, the theme of the year is the year of examination. And part of that in the year of examination is, God, I want you to examine the places in me where you're requiring more. And I want to be open to whatever that process of growth looks like. So, I love that idea of walking. Absolutely. Let me hurry us up. I know we got to be done in a few minutes. Shift number 3. Let's talk about it. Shift number 3. And you can put this in the chat, YouTube. Shift number 3 for Peter is from confidence to collapse. From confidence to a collapse. I think almost immediately after the confession with Peter, he begins to misunderstand the mission of Jesus. And where can you get more information on Seek? You can visit the Alfred Street website, Alfred Street Baptist Church. I'm not a member. I'm a virtual member. But there's also, if you go to your Apple store or your Google Play Store, you can download the Seek app. You'll find an app and it gives you all of the details for Seek. Right?
Is it S-E-E-K?
S-E-E-K. S-E-E-K. Correct. All right. So Peter starts to misunderstand Jesus's mission, right? Even though I've been walking with you, you're saying these things, they make no sense. In fact, he rebukes Jesus, right? And he's resisting what is going to happen with the cross. And later, he even insists, though I should die with thee, yet will I not deny thee. So again, the same Peter who declares this loyalty to Jesus, like he's the same one who denies Jesus 3 times. So I think that the scripture, when we read this lesson, it's been very intentional in how it places these moments really close together on purpose, right? Because I think that we've already said that who Jesus is has been revealed to Peter. But I'll tell you this, revelation doesn't cancel the fact that we have weak spots. Revelation doesn't cancel the fact that we have moments of weakness, right? And we already know Peter has been called of Jesus. I don't know why this camera's moving. I don't know what I'm touching. Nothing. All right. But Peter has been called, but that does not erase his fear. And I think about a lot of us, God has called us to things, but that doesn't mean that we don't have concerns. That doesn't sometimes mean we don't even second guess who me. That doesn't mean that we don't second guess you want me to do what. And there are parts of us that sometimes feel like imposter syndrome. And is this really what you're calling me to do? And I think that even though Jesus has affirmed Peter, thou art Peter, upon this rock, I'll build my church and the gates of hell are not going to prevail against it. Even that affirmation doesn't prevent a collapse. It doesn't prevent Peter from falling while he's still walking with Jesus, right? So his confidence on the one hand is pretty real. Peter's a pretty confident guy, but confidence is not enough, right? As believers, confidence in Peter it still leaves him in a way that is incomplete. So when we look at how it breaks, like the scripture doesn't edit what happens with Peter. We get everything, right? It doesn't take out the ugly parts of Peter. That's why I say we get to see it all. Even think about when he denies Jesus, right? His biggest failure on record, right? We get, oh, the cocks crow 3 times, Peter weeps. And then the text lets us kind of sit there for a second because it shows us that in many ways, like failure is this footnote in our formation. I think we all want to live these lives where we're going to be perfect and we never get it wrong. But no, like failure is a part of what builds us up as disciples. And so I don't know that we're always, I don't need people to put their business out, right? But I don't even know that we are always honest about the true classrooms that we've sat in, because a lot of us, the things we've learned came in the classroom of life. And there are so many things that we hide in the classroom of life. I'll tell you this, if you minister to young adults, your biggest win is if you'll be honest with them. Again, don't tell them all your business, but don't leave them out here to think that they're navigating spaces that are so foreign. No, all of us have learned in this classroom called life. So again, I think when we see this like move from this really bold confession with Peter to this really visible failure, it exposes the fact that he wasn't perfect. But what I love is it never meant disqualification. And I think a lot of us, right, need to keep that in mind, that our failure does not mean disqualification. I'm going to pause. Anybody got any thoughts about that? Just kind of that space with Peter, that failure, disqualification, all those things.
It would seem like the times that Jesus, told him and built up his confidence. That, as I was reading this, I was thinking, a lot of times in these scriptures, it seemed like he would have got a big head. Jesus said, on this church, I'll build my church. You are the rock. And, I can imagine Peter getting a big head, but then Jesus didn't let him stay there,
Right.
And that's where it is. And sometimes when we get a big head or something, or we're overconfident, God will sometimes have to bring us down.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this is a prime example of that.
I love that. And I'll leave you all with this question, and you definitely don't have to answer this, but think about this. Like, what failures in your life forced you to face parts of yourself, parts of your areas for growth that had not been touched yet? What failures in your own life have faced you to force you to face parts of your own growth or areas that had not been touched yet?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And no, I'll tell you, I'm the first one to tell you, failure is not fun. It's not.
Right.
Failure is not fun.
Right.
I've done some dumb things. Failure is not fun. Yeah,
Right.
we've talked about those layoffs that I've gone through. Yeah, I keep joking. When the water's troubled, I have no man to throw me in. I don't. And that's why in one of those layoffs, when one of those checks came in the mail, go cash this one today and you can have $8,000. And in my mind, I got to keep a roof over my head. Yeah, I've done some dumb things. I cashed the check. I did. You don't have a job, sis. How you going to pay this back? How you going to do that? Right? So those are those things, like parts of myself. We talk about discipline and being able to do, like, those are those things. Like, we don't always like to put them out there, but failure. I love something that, let me see, it's in the face or the YouTube comments. Yes, Mrs. Victor, we've all fallen short of God's grace. Absolutely. Where is this? We're not perfect. Things are going to be challenging. That's not the comment. This Sister Angela says that failure is a learning tool. Failure is a learning tool. And I believe that even in our walks of faith, I talked about finances, but I think even in our faith, right? Peter failed epically. Peter failed publicly. And I don't know about you, but I don't like to fail publicly. Like this week alone, right? This week, last week when I put out an email and I said, hey, y'all, come to boot camp. It's out here. And a bunch of y'all text me. You were like, Waynell, I can't register. I went back to my team. I was like, hey, I don't like failing in front of people. I might need to take this to Jesus a little bit more, but for now, just know I am sensitive like that. I love these people that I serve, and I don't like they're used to a level of excellence out of me. I don't like looking stupid in front of people. So for a whole 12 hours, I had to stew and wait till the next morning so they could come and fix the system, and folks couldn't register. But I hate failure, right? And for me, that may not seem like anything to anybody else, but that was a public failure to me. And so I know that's simple, but think about people who have fallen in other ways very publicly. Even think about religious leaders who have fallen in ways that are very public, right? So falling publicly it's not a fun thing. Let me move us on. Shift number 4. Moves from collapse, his down place, to care. He moves from collapse to care. So in John 21, when Jesus meets Peter again, he doesn't start with a whole lecture. Peter, I can't believe you did that. Man, you've been with me all this time. I thought you was my boy. I thought you were down for me. No, he doesn't start with that, right? He literally starts with a question. And I don't know about y'all, but like when my parents started with a question, I always knew that we were going somewhere with this, right? You were trying to make me think about it. I absolutely knew that questions typically meant, you know, I did something and they needed me to reflect. And I didn't know where the destination was. But here's Peter, right? He gets a question. You know, lovest thou me? Questions in our house might have been like, didn't I tell you to pack your lunch the night before? Yeah, you kind of did. Didn't I tell you? Oh, a great example. Y'all, my dad, I found it a couple years ago. My dad loved him down. As the young people say, I love my daddy down. My dad was a military man, a former military man. So everything for him was like orderly, and, you know, he would write a memo to us. He wrote a memo to me at the beginning of every school year, and the memo would have attached the rules for the school year, and he would laminate the rules. And after we reviewed the rules in a family meeting, he would tape the rules to the back of the door. And the back of the door rules would include things like when you come home in the evening, you start homework first. We don't turn on TVs. After dinner, you know, we're going to make sure the kitchen is clean. This includes packing up the food. You do not put pots and pans in the refrigerator, like all the things, right? And this includes having the floor swept and da-da-da-da. I had a brother, for the record, I still don't like to sweep. I'll wash your dishes all day long. So because I was the big sister, I took everything on the counters and above. My brother, I made him sweep and do trash. Love you, Pastor Henson. You're a good man. All right. So other rules included lay your clothes out the night before. This includes da-da-da. And it includes your shoes. And your lunches must be packed. So now the next morning, you can't find your shoes. What does daddy do? He doesn't fuss at me. He goes and he says, would you go to your room and look at rule number 4 and come back and tell me what it says? Okay, I'll be right back. Right. And then you come back. I'm supposed to have my shoes at the door. Okay. All right. Then comes the question. Why did you not leave your shoes at the door? So when I tell you I understand questions like this, that's how that feels for me. Peter, do you love me? Right. And so Peter's got to answer that. Right. And Jesus doesn't just ask him this once. He is asking him 3 times. Why do you think that was 3 times? Anybody? I know you all are students of this lesson. Why do you think he asked Peter 3 times?
To get the point across.
To get the point across. What else? Why do you think 3 times? Anybody?
I think the first time you ask a question, it's just sort of a rote thing right off the top of your head. But the repetitiveness for me made Peter really think about what is being asked and how I really feel, how I respond.
And because he denied him 3 times.
Yes, absolutely. You denied him 3 times, and 3 times he gives you this chance to think about it and a chance of space to actually get it right. And when he asks him every time, he gives him an assignment, right? Okay, if you love me, feed my sheep. Feed my lambs. If you love me, tend. If you love me, feed, right? There are instructions that go with that every time. So I feel like even inside of his failure, like Jesus gives him like this care. So when I talked earlier about a grace that we should be guilty of, even after people make their biggest mistakes, I think we see that modeled in the life of Jesus here. And Jesus reconnects Peter to responsibility, but he does it through love. Right. And I think that's a big thing for me. Failure doesn't again mean I've been disqualified, but Jesus uses that to reconnect him to responsibility. If you looked it up in the Greek, Jesus moves Peter from like affection into like the care of sheep, shepherding, right? So that care language now is shifting Peter again, because before he's been a man of bravado, you know, his courage, who he is, what he's, you know, alpha man. But that care language now is being replaced for just courage. He's not just a man of courage. You're going to be a man of care. Remember the I will. What am I going to do with you, Peter? Make you a fisher of men, right? Sister McKinnis, your hand is raised. Are you going to say something else?
Okay. And you don't have to answer right now, but more than these. What is the these referring to? Now, go ahead.
Well, let me see what the class says. I love the question. What is more than these? Anybody? What is more than these? Because what happened after Peter failed Jesus? What happened?
He was crucified.
After Peter denied Jesus.
He went away sorrowful.
Right.
And I probably thought that he had messed up where he couldn't recover from it.
Mm-hmm. And when I think about that, Peter is in his own head.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people, we get in our own head. Jesus didn't say he wasn't going to forgive you. You really don't even know if Jesus is mad, yet you assume Jesus is mad. And now you decide, well, I guess I'll go back to what I was doing because Jesus got to be mad. He can't use, at this point, he's been, he can't use me. All the things, right? He's going to be crucified, but he can't use me. He's going to be mad. I was supposed to be a friend and a brother. And when Jesus is asking him, do you love me more than these? Anybody have an idea of what more than these is?
I think part of that is because those disciples that were with him followed him into the fishing. So sometimes maybe he's asking if he loved him more than the affection and I'm trying to think of the word that he's getting from those that's following around him right now.
Love it. Anybody else?
I just thought about do you love me more than you love these fish?
Mhm.
I know that sounds crazy, but
No.
when Jesus called him, he was fishing. And now that Jesus is getting ready to go back to Calvary, and he's going to leave them, do you love me more than you love these fish?
And I'm with you on the fish, Sister McGinnis. But for me, what do the fish represent?
His vocation, the way he makes money to take care of his family. Do
Absolutely.
You love me more than you love these fish?
And even the fishing even represents his old life. Do you love me more than this old life? Do you love me more than the pride of catching fish? Do you love me more than what it means to make all this money when you take this fish to do you love me more? Because that's what these things represent. So he's asking him like to evaluate what this love. And his answer is, you know I do. Nah, well, if you do, here's what you need to do, right? So there are definitely conditions attached to that. So again, I think like this is that shifting inside of Peter, right? This is that reshaping from someone, who devotion to Jesus is not just in our words, right? It's got to be in our practice. It's got to be in the things that we do every single day. I always talk about the t-shirts and bumper stickers. There are folks who will, post memes and all the things, and they mean as a junkyard dog and talk crazy all day long. But do you love him? And I think all of us have to wrestle with what are these? And what do they represent in our lives? Like, do you love, some of us got to answer, do you love us more than do you love him more than ministry work? Because sometimes we get caught up in that kind of thing, right? So I think these is different across the board. I see the time. I know I'm over my time. Somebody's going to speak. Go ahead. I'm fine. Go ahead.
And I think we have a tendency to compare ourselves to others. So I've always interpreted this passage as, do you love me more than these other disciples who didn't deny me? Because this is Peter coming right off the face of failure. And all of us fail in different ways, but as you did mention, this is a really big public failing. And so I think that when he said these, he's talking about these other disciples.
I agree. Since some scholars do agree with that as well. I don't disagree. I think it's kind of in totality. Dr. Bonnie Perry, I'm coming right to you. Before I do, in fact, go ahead and unmute. Sister Bridget says, do you love me more than what is truly normal for you? Sister Angela says, does he love Jesus more than the influence of people? Dr. Bonnie.
The thing I thought about is, I thought about how many times my parents sometimes would let something slip. I didn't learn the lesson. And when it happened again, my mother said, I wish I would have talked to you about this then. So I always think about that when Jesus was asking Peter that question. Jesus could have just let it go, but because he loved him so, when our parents love us, they see you going towards the street. They don't just let you walk out there. They say, they smack your hand or your bottom or something. And I hope I'm making that clear.
Absolutely.
That Jesus just doesn't let us get by with things because he loves us so much.
Nope. And we don't talk about that enough, right? Him holding us accountable. I think people like the love of Jesus and they like the beautiful ideas, but no, like he's gonna hold us accountable, all those things. And inside of that accountability is like the love that he has for us. And I think it's not only the love, but I go back to where we were earlier in this lesson. He's already affirmed what he sees, knows, and believes about Peter. Regardless of this stuff over here, this is what I see and know. I think about a lot of us who have had calls on our lives and coming up may not have made the best decisions as young adults, may have gotten off the path. But I love something that I hear Pastor Michael McWilliams say: everything that God said about you is still going to happen. You know, I watch, y'all already know I watch a lot of TikTok in my nighttime, but there's a couple of TikTokers. I watch these young women and some of the things that they're saying today, a little bit off course. But when I listen to their foundation and I look at the ways that people are drawn, oh, I see the spirit of evangelism on you. You're doing some silly stuff right now at 29. I probably did some silly stuff at 29, but I'm going to keep my eye on you because I'm just guessing by 34, I'm going to give you 5 years out here in foolishness, but I can see God redirecting you. And so I think that we've got to think that that imperfection does not distract from what God has said. Yes, Peter teaches me that we as Christians cannot throw away people. Yep. When they fail, and all of us absolutely are going to fail. Let me give you, go ahead. Who's that?
I was going to say that this passage also reminds me that love is an action word. So his reason for proposing those questions over and over again is then show me that you love me. Mm-hmm. And then it goes into then serving others and care for my sheep.
I love that. Thank you. Oh, Sister Brown just dropped something good. Fail equals first attempt in learning. That's good. That's an acronym for fail. Type that in the chat, YouTube. Fail equals first attempt in learning. That's good, Sister Brown. Love that. Love that. And if you join for my Team COGIC lesson, you clearly see the international crew has always been this way. I should have just built in the time. It's always been like this over here. Even on Markup Monday, international has always been, this is how they get down. I love it. All right. Here's the last shift, y'all. Here's the last shift. The last shift is from being formed to forming others. Formed to forming others. So when we look at Peter years later, his tone has changed, right? By the time we see 2 Peter, this ain't the same hot-headed 29-year-old Peter. I just made it up. I don't know how old he was. My point is, we all have a space of growth in life, right? So when we see him in 2 Peter, he is now the one who is encouraging diligence. He is the one who was not patient before, the one cutting off people's ear before. He's now encouraging patience. He is now the one who is encouraging growth. He's telling us to grow in grace. And that's that word I keep using. We're growing in grace. We're walking. When we don't get it right, there's grace that picks us up and helps us to move forward. Grow in grace and the knowledge of our Lord. And that word means to increase. It means to enlarge. It basically means, you two put this in the chat, continue developing. Like, I don't care who we are. We never stop growing. Right? So Peter doesn't present growth as this phase. He is telling us we are all on this lifelong journey, this path of living. It's what Sister Cecilia said. We are walking this out every single day. It is just how we live. At whatever age we are now, we're not always going to get it right, but we're walking, and it is just a way of living. So when we look at how he's writing now, he is kind of shifting, no pun intended, from being shaped to now being able to help others stay shaped. And I'll say this, I've been talking to a lot of my peers, right? I think I'm just, what did my bishop call me lately? He said, you are now I think he called me a middle-aged adult. The young people now say I'm an auntie. So I like auntie better than middle-aged adult. It makes me feel safer. You know, some of y'all don't like to be called granny. You got your grandma names. In fact, if you have another name that's not a grandma name, you put that in the chat. I want to know what your grandchildren call you. If it's not like old-fashioned grandma, or granny. My grandmother, one, would not answer granny. She did not want to be called granny. And my paternal grandmother specifically was grandmother. And that's what she wanted to be called. She only answered to grandmother. So what is your grandmother name? I see these GG, glamorous grandma. See what I'm talking about? Yeah, we got I got a grandma over here on YouTube. I got 2 nanas over here. So yeah. So it's I'm auntie. I think about where we are in stages of life. So, right, we're talking about Peter, who's now at this point in life, he's older, he's had experience, he's using his lived experience now as formation. What is formation? Helping others to be shaped, right? I love what Pastor Howard John Wesley says at Alfred Street. The focus right now is how do we live, love, and look like Jesus? I may have gotten those out of order, but it's look, live, and love like Jesus. You know, and so that is what formation is. If you're a teacher, that's what this is all about. We don't need to simply go over Bible stories and Bible lessons, but how do you lead spaces where people live, love, look like Jesus? So when you look at how Peter is writing here, he's helping others now to get in shape, helping others to stay shaped. And I was talking about aunties and grandmas and grandmas and nanas and papas, because there has to be, I'm talking to my peers right now, y'all, there has to be a space where we are not just looking for what the faith space gives to us. We are now responsible. How do we care for? How do we help lead? How do we help shape those who are coming behind us? How do we share our lived experience in a way that it's no more about me? That's why I say, now you hear me use the words often, I am not a consumer in a space. I'm looking for what I'm supposed to give. Right? Even in my space of ministry, I understand usually when I hit the parking lot, people are asking me questions, right? So that's why I have a virtual church. That's why I can go to Alfred Street and I can watch quietly, you know, in my living room or in my bedroom, because I can receive. That's a receiving place. But I know that when I go into other spaces, that's where I'm pouring out, right? But I admit that I am in a space and a responsibility. There's a call on me that part of people's discipleship, their formation, how they're shaped, how they know the mind of Christ, that's my assignment, right? And I look at how Peter uses his space in his older years. I want to challenge you to think about, how are you part of somebody else's formation, right? Because that's what our life experience is about. So yes, we've been shaped, and God for those lessons. Now, how do we use that as others' formation? Peter is no longer a man of impulse. He's a man who's giving instructions now, right? He's not the reactionary guy who just, you know, gets all crazy. Now he's a man of reflection. And I think life takes us through those spaces. So again, I think, you know, Peter's formation now produces him to be a person who can build formation in others. I love Peter, and I'm wrapping us up because I know we're over time. But I think for me, as we look at these shifts, it really is a challenge to grow, right? And I'll even ask you, like, how is God preparing you? How is God using your life experience, your lived experience, your growth, your challenges? How does he use your failure to eventually strengthen someone else?
Mm-hmm.
How will he use that to eventually strengthen someone else? I'm done. We talked about Peter today, a man who was called before he was understood, a man who got affirmed before he was even on his feet and stable, who was exposed before he was truly useful by Jesus, a man who was restored before he was really ready. But he's also a man who knew that he was still growing when God put him in a space to guide others. I thank you all for hanging out with me on this Frozen Sunday. And thank you for being here in the International Arctic Sunday School. If you're not already a regular subscriber of the channel, I would love to have you as a part of our community on YouTube. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. Please remember also to click the thumbs up like button over there. And y'all can send me emails or leave in the chat what you thought about our Arctic Blast Sunday School on today. I am praying for you all. And that you'll stay safe, that you'll be definitely warm and all the things. But more than anything, I'm praying that our time together will show fruit and give increase in your life and as you go on your own growth journeys. This is the end of our International Arctic Blast Sunday School. I am going to take a 5.5-minute break. And at 1:20, I will have a new YouTube started for the COGIC lesson. And I'll be back. If you're Team COGIC, just turn your camera off for a few minutes. I'll be back in 6 minutes. Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much. I love you all.